In this video, I'm going to show you how to recreate 2 of these viral Instagram reels in the Dan Co style. So this was originally done by Epta Visuals, so shout out to him. Now, if you want to download all the assets in this video, they'll be available in the Leverage Editor program and community. Everyone inside will have access to all my project files. And to top it all off, you'll have access to our Leverage Editor program that was originally $350 and now is only $67. So if you want to stop being an average editor scrambling around trying to find clients and barely getting paid for the work that you actually do, to then unlocking your ability to become an advanced level editor and animator who is able to work with top level influencers and brands to get paid what you deserve. If you want to become that, then enroll into our Leverage Editor program and community. I'll give you the secrets behind the Iman Ghazi style, Ali Abdaal style, Vox style, and even my style that has gotten me millions of views. Look, if you don't invest in yourself, you'll never expect to 10x your skills and to 10x your income. When I started to invest in myself as an editor, I was able to gain the skills that allowed me to level up and allowed my editing business to earn up to $30,000 a month. I give you all the secrets on how to do this for yourself as well. So take the next step, enroll into the program, and as well, you'll get access to our exclusive community. Here you'll be able to get coaching, mentoring, one-on-one calls, updated project files and assets, challenges, and much more. So the link is in the description to join our Leverage Editor program and community, and it will only be available for 5 days. After the 5 days is over, nobody else will be allowed to join. So click that link in the description and I hope to see you there. Now let's get into the tutorial. All right, we're here in After Effects. And right now we're just going to be working on the first animation. It's a little bit more simpler. And once we're done that, it's really going to work you up to the next one. So what you want to do is, of course, have After Effects open and start a composition. Here are the composition settings that you need to have. You can pause this, copy it, and then hit OK. From here, what we need to do is create a box. So I'm going to go up to the top left here where it says rectangle tool, click on that and click and drag while holding shift. This is going to make a perfect box for us. So something around that size should work. And then the color should be this right here. If you go up to stroke, you'll see you can change the color. You can copy this color code if you're following along and then just hit OK. Keep the stroke at 2. You should be good if you do that. The one thing that we need to change here is to make sure that this is in the middle. Now there's a couple ways to go about this. One is if you have the plugin Motion Tools Layout. This is completely free, by the way. Go ahead and download it, add it to After Effects, and this will allow you to change the anchor point. You can see it right here. Will allow you to easily change it to the middle of the square. If you just click this thing right here, that makes the anchor point in the middle. Now, if you don't have this and you're like too lazy, you don't want to download it, just go ahead and hit Y on your keyboard. That will allow you to grab this anchor point and move it roughly to the middle. Of course, it's not going to be exactly perfect. So if you want it perfect, just use motion tools. From here, what we need to do is center this. To easily do that, go over to the line tab here. If you don't see this, just go up to window and you'll see a line. Make sure that's checked. That should appear over here. Have this open and then just hit align horizontally. This will place it in the middle horizontally, and then align vertically will also align it vertically as well. Basically what it says. But yeah, so that's how you put it exactly in the middle. It's looking good. What we need to do from here is make the text around it. So I always like to set up the scene first before animating, and that's exactly what we're doing. Go up to the text tool here in the top left, click once, and we're just gonna type in inhale. And the font that we're using right here is Tamil Sangam MN. So if you don't have that on your side, I can provide that in the project file, and files will only be available in the community. So if you want to go ahead and join that, you'll have access to all the project files and be able to get the fonts and all of that. But if you're just following along, totally fine. You can find this font online for free. This is what it's called right here. Okay, so we want the anchor point in the middle in the text here and then drag it to the left here. And we want to align it horizontally in the middle. So just click it once here. It'll put it in the middle horizontally, and that looks pretty good as is. I'm going to duplicate this by making sure it's selected and hitting Command D. That will duplicate our layer. I'm going to drag it over to the right here. We're going to change the text to hold. Try to get that exact distance as the distance in between here with this here. So it needs to move to the right a little bit. That looks good. And then obviously we need to align it vertically. So just go back to your line and then click align vertically. This will put it in the middle for us. So it's in the center of the box. We're going to duplicate inhale again. So hit Command D. Once you duplicate this one, just click on it and hold shift and drag it down. Holding shift will keep it in its horizontal plane or in its vertical plane. And then try to find that exact distance. Something around there looks pretty good. Same thing with hold. Just hit Command D to duplicate it. Click on it and hold down shift, drag it to the left, then place it roughly around the same distance, just like that. All right, so that is basically our scene setup. Now we're gonna get into animating it. And then from there, we're gonna add the finishing touches. But to animate, what we wanna do is click on our box layer. Make sure you drop this down. You'll see where it says add right here. Click on this and then do trim paths. Drop down trimmed paths. And you can see once we mess with the start percentage, it starts to take away the line. But we need it to take away in the right direction. So what we want to do here to line things up easily, take that end percentage and just move it to the left a little bit. But we need it to be anchored, not from this corner, but to this corner. So to do that, go over to his offset here and then just change the anchoring of the offset to where it hits this corner. From there, we can take the end and completely just make it 100%, or actually 0%, excuse me. So that'll get it away. And then we want it to animate this just like that. So we're going to increase the percentage of the end and it will animate exactly how we want. All right, so to do that, just make a keyframe for end. Make sure that your playhead is at the beginning while doing this. From there, I'm going to drag my playhead to the right by, like, let's just say 2 seconds. We might have to mess with the distances later, but this should be fine. I want to increase the end point until it hits this corner right here. Then I'm going to drag my playhead by 2 seconds, so around 4 seconds here, and then increase it by 50%. Just so when it hits the corners, move my playhead by 2 seconds again, increase by another 25%, should be at 75%. Move my playhead to the right by 2 seconds, and then increase it to another 25%, so 100%. So if we play this back, it's looking pretty good. One thing we need to add to this is a easy ease. So I'm going to highlight all the keyframes here, right click, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease. This will give it a little bit of easing in to where it meets its next point. And then the same exact effect will happen as it keeps on meeting points here. And then we'll judge if the speed is good by watching it back. Okay, so the speed's a little slow. I think having it scale in or move to the right by 1.5 seconds is probably best. So I'm going to put my playhead in the middle between 1 second and 2 seconds here and just drag that keyframe there. So then we want to scale it by another 1.5 seconds. So going to 3 seconds, we're going to drag this playhead to 3 seconds, then 4.5 seconds, drag this keyframe there, and then 6 seconds. So this should give us the right speed that we're looking for. That looks fantastic. One thing that we need to do is then have this side of the line start to disappear as it reaches its end over here. So right around when it hits this corner on the bottom right here, that's when we want this one to start animating out. So when it hits that corner, I'm going to create a keyframe for start, move my playhead all the way to the end here to align with this one, which you can do to easily align to this keyframe. You just hit this go to next keyframe here and it will automatically put your playhead exactly where that keyframe's at. And then what we can do is just change start all the way to 100%. So if we play this back, you'll see it begins to disappear here and it's perfect. That's it. This one's pretty simple as far as animation. That's all we needed to do. But now we need to add the sauce, which is the glow to it. And I got that from a Paul. You always want to add the sauce at the end. So shout out to him. But to add this glow, what I'm going to use is a effect called Deep Glow. Now this effect costs a little bit of money, around like $50 US dollars, I believe. Definitely recommend getting it as I use this effect a lot. And a lot of the top creators use this effect. It's just a little bit better than the After Effects regular glow plugin. You certainly can get the same effect or the same look with the regular plugin that After Effects has. It just takes a little bit more time and manipulation to get that desired effect. So what Deep Glow does is just you can apply it to pretty much anything, and right off the bat, it's pretty good. It's pretty good to go. There might just be 1 or 2 settings that you may need to adjust, but it's definitely a little bit better as far as quickness and getting the desired effect that you want from the glow. I'm going to add that on. So in the effects and presets, I'm just going to look up Deep Glow. We're going to toss this onto our shape layer first. And you can see right off the bat, it looks really good. I think I'm just going to leave it as is. These are the settings here in the left. You can just copy this if yours aren't matching, but it looks really good right off the bat. So I'm going to copy this Deep Glow by hitting Command C. Then we can apply it to all the other text here. But the thing we want to do, okay, one funny thing that I actually noticed is that this text here is just supposed to be exhale, not inhale. So you could change that Make sure it's capital here. You should be good. All right, before the glow effect, what we need to do, each time this, you call it bar or whatever, loads, that's when, like, these aren't supposed to be glowing. So when it goes to the side it's supposed to be at, then this glows. So we need to animate that glow effect. To do that, we're just going to start off with inhale. Make sure that layer is selected. Then we're going to go over to deep glow effect. And for exposure, I'm going to create a keyframe for that. As soon as I create a keyframe, I can hit U on my keyboard, and that's going to show any effect with a keyframe on it with the layer that you have selected. I'm going to drag this keyframe to the right a little bit and keep my playhead at the beginning, and then just change this to 0. So as this bar comes in, the glow really starts to shine. And then as it leaves, as it gets to the next one, we need to have it disappear. So I'm going to create a keyframe for that. And then as soon as this next one starts, we're going to have it disappear. So change the exposure to 0. We can kind of adjust the settings here a little bit. Then what we can do is copy these keyframes and then just paste them to our text here. So we want to line up this keyframe with the hold text and hit Command V. You'll see that I'll just paste those keyframes, and it should align pretty well to where when this bar starts on this side, this text here starts to glow. And then we can do that for this one as well. So find this keyframe in the bar, go over to exhale and hit Command V. You'll copy those keyframes there. And then same thing for the final one. It should be good. When watching this back, we can see that these things just start to shine as the bar goes, and it looks really good. All right, so that is how you do the first one. It's a really good stepping stone to doing this next one that's just a tad bit more advanced. And yeah, if you're following along and you want the project file, make sure to join the community, and you'll be able to get the project file with all the fonts, including this next scene that we're going to set up here. You'll be able to download all the assets that go along with it. Just be a part of the community. Many great things are happening in there. A couple of challenges with cash prizes, one-on-ones, inner circles, mentoring. And of course, there's the leverage editor program in there, and it will teach you from going from an average editor where you're just getting by working with anybody and not getting the pay that you deserve, to then becoming an advanced editor where you can earn a whole lot more with a lot more ease, which is really important, and deal with amazing clients who respect your craft. So make sure to join, and you'll get those project files and everything else that comes along with it. And let's start with the next scene here. So what we want to do here is go to composition, new composition, copy these settings right here, and you should be good. Just going to call this scene 2, you can call it whatever, and then hit OK. For this animation, just like always, we want to set up the entire scene first before we actually animate. So the first thing that we need to do is create a ball, or 2 balls in a way. So go up to your shape tool here and go to ellipse tool. Then we're just going to click and drag while holding shift. Holding shift allows you to create a perfect circle here. So I'm going to let go of that. Now we need to change a couple settings here. So we're going to change the stroke from 2 to 4, so make sure the stroke is 4. Change the color to white. Then we need to add a gradient. So we're going to go over to fill, click fill, not the actual color part of it. Change it to gradient, hit OK. So you can see I was kind of messing with this before. This is kind of what we need, but we will do the gray gradient first. So what I'm going to do here is actually change this one here on the left that's black. I'm going to change it to white. I'm going to change this one that's green to black. Now you're probably looking at this and like the gradient's not looking right. So what we need to do is move this little diamond here more towards the end here. Hit OK and hit V on your keyboard. As soon as you're done hitting OK, hit V, and you'll notice that this little thing here pops up. This allows us to control a little bit more of the gradient. So you can also drag this one to the left, and it'll give us more our desired look that we're going for here. Looks good. One thing to note here is we want to put the anchor point in the middle. As I was saying before, what you could do is hit Y on your keyboard, roughly move it to the middle. But if you have Motion Tools, which is a completely free plugin, and I recommend you download it, just hit this little thing in the center. It will automatically center our anchor point. From there, I'm going to go to align. We want to align it vertically, and then we want to click it, hold down shift to keep it on the same plane, and then move it to the right. Right about here should be good. From here, we need to create some text. So I'm going to go to my top left, hit on the text tool, click once, type U, change this font to Europa Grotesque. So if you don't have this font, once again, I will be providing it in the community, and you'll be able to download it. If you're not a part of the community, you can just look up this font online for free. So if you do want it really quickly, just join the community and you'll be able to download it. So since I typed in U here, we can also center the anchor point and then move this to the middle of our circle. So to make sure that's in the middle, just go to the line and then just align it vertically, and that'll put it in the middle. From here, what I'm going to do is highlight both of these layers here, hit Command D on my keyboard. And And once I hit Command D, it's going to duplicate both those layers. And I kind of want to just put them together here. So I'm going to drag this bottom shape layer 2 up, and then we're going to hold down Shift while both of those are selected. Move this to the left. Try to get that same distance between the edges here. Something like that should be good. So let's change this text to goal. And then what we need to do is change the gradient here of this one on the left. So go to your shape layer 2, the circle, go to fill. I'm just going to drag this white over to the right and this black all the way to the left here. Change this white to a green. So something like this color right here should work. So you can copy that color code if you're following along. I'm going to change this little, I don't even know what you call this thing, this diamond that kind of just controls the gradient a little bit. I'm going to move it over to the right, hit OK. And as soon as you're hitting OK, don't do anything. You'll still see these two little dots here. This allows us to manipulate the gradient a little bit more. So I'm going to do that. Just allows us to add those little touches on there. And then that should look good. Something like that. If you're following along, that should look good. So I'm noticing that this one still doesn't feel totally in the center or totally the same distance. And I'm just going to adjust it and it should look good. From here, what we can do is actually pre-compose these layers. So I'm going to, the circle on the left, highlight both those layers, right click, do pre-compose. Then I'm going to call this one goal circle. Hit OK, make sure move all attributes to new composition selected. Hit OK. Same thing for this one. We're just going to copy that. Steps that we did is just by pre-composing it and just call it U circle. What we can do here is also to stay organized is change the color. To change the color, we just select this little color tag here, and then I'm just going to change this one to orange. This one's fine as brown. This just lets us know like what is what a little bit easier, trying to stay more organized. It really helps you out when editing a lot faster. From here, what I'm going to do is select the pen tool, and we need to make a straight line. I'm going to select once here, and then hold down Shift. This is going to make a straight line for us, and then select once here. We're going to get rid of the fill on this, just no fill. Hit OK. And then the stroke is fine. Keep it as 4. So that's pretty good. So what we can see is happening here in this one that I already completed is that the line shows, disappears, and then this builds up. We need to build this out before we get into animating. One thing that we can do quickly is like just go by like 4 seconds for now. And what you can do is just delete part of this line. So I hit Command Shift D to make a cut, and I want to delete the layer to the right. So this line is showing here for the first 4 seconds and then gets away. This will allow us to stay organized and create all the other lines without getting confused on what's what. So let's create these other lines. The first thing that we're going to do is go over the shape tool and then hit this rectangle or the rounded rectangle tool. Click on that. And then we're just going to go over here and click once, hold down Shift. And then we're going to go over here and click and drag. Create something like what we can do here is make sure that anchor point is in the middle by going to motion tools and centering that. Go to align, then align vertically, and then also align horizontally. This will put it in the middle. We can drag this to the bottom, and then we need to round the corners off and make it a dashed line. So to do that, in your drop down here for the shape layer, we could actually rename this to outer rectangle. Then in the contents here, we want to drop this down, go to stroke, drop that stroke down, and then we'll see dashes. We want to make this a plus. This will change the dashes here, and then we want to scale them up just a tad bit. Something like that. All right, but we're also coming across the problem here where the corners aren't as rounded as we want. So to get them rounded, we want to go to the rectangle path, hit the drop down on that, and you'll see roundness. Right now it's at 20. We just want to beef this up a little bit, right around like 55 should be good. And there we go, we have that. All right, so I always say you want to set up your scene first before you get into animation. But there are some small things that we can do like right off the bat. It makes it a little bit more simpler for us. And that's just having that animation where the dashed lines is moving. To simply do that, go back into the stroke and you'll see dashes here. If we manipulate that offset, we can see that the dash lines just move. So we want to have that happen. Bring your playhead to the beginning here, go to offset, make a keyframe for that, then drag your playhead to the right by, a couple of seconds, and then move this offset into the negatives. So like negative 128 might be good. A little too slow. So what we can do is go back to this keyframe here and just keep on increasing this by the negatives. That looks pretty good. So we can close that up for now. Drag this to the right to when this line disappears, because then this little outer rectangle will start to appear. All right, from there's a couple things that we need to make, which is it's supposed to be like a basketball court. So to do that, we want to go up to our pen tool, make sure no layers is selected here, then create a little line in the middle. So click once, hold Shift, and that's going to make a straight line for us. If you click again, we want to change the stroke to 1, keep it as white, and then we want to center this as well. So click on the layer, go to align, center that vertically, and then center it horizontally. I'm also going to change the opacity to like 75%. That looks good. We also want to create a circle, so go to the ellipse tool, click and hold shift while creating a circle. We want to make it a lot smaller than the ones on the right and left, something like that. And then the stroke of one is good. And all we need to do is align this. So first, before we actually go to the align settings here, we need to center the anchor point. To do that, just hit all motion tools, center it. I showed you how to center it before if you don't have motion tools. So just make sure that anchor point's in the middle. Go over to align vertically, click on that and align horizontally, and that will perfectly put it in the middle. Last thing we need to do is change the opacity to 75%. That looks good. What we can do is drag both these layers to the right as well. Okay, now we need to make that line that appears where it shows that the path to your goals isn't always as straight. There's obstacles in your way for getting a basket in basketball. So we need to create that line. So go to your pen tool, make sure no layers are selected, and then click once here. Make sure you hold down shift on your keyboard and click. And then we're gonna make some like jagged lines here. So I'm gonna click down once here, click once up here, click all the way down right here, and then click over here. We're gonna change this before and keep it as white. Alrighty, that's looking pretty good. Last thing to do as far as the scene setup is creating a bunch of those red circles, which represent obstacles for the concept of this animation. So to do that, go up to the ellipse tool, click and drag. We wanna keep these pretty small. So I'm around here, I'm gonna change the stroke to 2.5, change the stroke color to red here. You can copy this color code, hit okay. And then what we need to do is I'm gonna move this to the right. And then we need to just duplicate this a bunch of times and change the scaling of it. Before we actually duplicate it, I want to center the anchor point. Motion tools, just click center here. Once again, if you don't have motion tools, you just hit Y on your keyboard, take this anchor point, put it in the middle. But to get it perfect, just use motion tools and center that right away. All right, so I'm going to Command D this to duplicate. Just drag it, kind of just position it in a couple different areas and mess with the scaling. So I'm going to hit S on my keyboard, scale it down, duplicate it, move it over here, duplicate it. Just move it in kind of random areas, mess with the scaling a little bit. Command D, Command D, mess with the scaling. So I'm going to speed this part up. All right, so there we have it. We have all the circles we want. One thing I noticed is that this jagged shape layer here needs to be kind of deleted in the beginning. So I'm just going to cut that out or drag that to the right so that all this starts to appear roughly around the same time. Now that we have our entire scene set up, we need to go ahead and animate this. And then once we're animating it, we're going to add the sauce to it. All right, so the first couple things that we want to animate is these circles here and then the line. But let's focus on the circle coming in. So I'm going to go to the goal circle, make sure that layer is selected. I'm going to drop down the transformation settings here. What I want to do is actually move this anchor point so that it kind of comes in like on a swivel. And I'll show you what I mean. So hit Y on your keyboard. This will allow you to drag this anchor point and you want to put it like roughly right about here. It's probably good. Then from here, we want to create a keyframe for rotation. Make sure your playhead's at the beginning and create a keyframe for position. Take these keyframes and bring them to the right here. Then with my playhead still in the beginning, make sure you hit V on your keyboard to bring back your regular cursor. I'm going to change the rotation of it. So it's kind of like swiveling in. So you can see it will swivel in here. Then I'm also going to bring it off screen. So even bringing it down a little bit more. Something like that is pretty good. What we want to do from here is highlight all these keyframes, right click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, then go over to Graph Editor, click once on the right keyframe here and bring that to the left. So you want to also click on this pink one and then click on the right keyframe and then drag it to the left. So your curve should look like that. And what it does is just manipulate the speed of it. And that looks fantastic. All right, now we need to move on to the U. The U is pretty simple. We don't need to really manipulate the rotation of it, but I'm going to drop down the transform tools, make sure my playhead's at the beginning, go to position and make a keyframe for that, drag it to the right. I kind of want you coming in a little, just like a tad bit before the goal one's in there. So I'm just going to make my keyframe a little bit before goal gets to its normal spot. Then I'm just going to take you and drag it up into the left a tad bit. From there, what we can do is highlight both these keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And then we just need to go to our graph editor, click once on the right here, move this to the left, and you should be good to go. So it should look like that. Now it's time to actually get the line to animate. So one thing we can do is take the shape layer. I'm going to change the name to first line. We can delete the first half of it right when the U gets to its spot. So we could see in the keyframes here that U gets right to its spot. That's when we want this line to actually start appearing. But we want it to animate in to where it then connects to gold. To do that, all we have to do is drop down the settings here for the first line, go to add, and then we want to do add trim paths. From here, we can see that trim paths is added. We want to hit the drop down for that. Then we want to, I'm going to untoggle this to show you what I'm talking about. We want to figure out what is the start and end point. So if I manipulate the start percentage, you'll see that as I increase it, it starts to go left. We don't want it to go in that direction. So we want to manipulate the end point. So as I decrease the end, it starts to go towards U. So what we want to do is make this 0, hit a keyframe, make sure our playhead's at the very beginning of this layer, drag our playhead to the right a little bit, and then make it 100. So then you can see that it's animating in. All we need to do is highlight these keyframes now, and then right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease, click on the graph, click once right here, and drag that to the left. Now come in a little bit smoother. What we can do also is just kind of move this to the right to mess with the timing of it. I think it could go a little bit right. Okay, so that should be good. From here, what we can do is then have this disappear. So once that kind of connects, give it like a couple frames, just a couple, don't want too much. And then hit T on your keyboard with the first line layer selected. This will bring up the opacity. I'm going to create a keyframe here, then drag my playhead to the right just a little bit, and then make it 0. Okay, the timing of everything feels pretty good. When this comes in, that moves to the left, disappears. Now we need this stuff to kind of appear sooner. So right when this disappears, we can see the keyframe. We can hit Command-Shift-D, that's going to cut it. And then we could just delete the layer to the right, and that will just have it kind of cut out, keep things a little bit more organized. And then this gives us a cue or a position to put the rest of these layers in the right area. So I'm going to drag this to right when it cuts out here, and then the same thing with all these layers here. So one thing that actually happens first is the rectangle. That comes in first. So what we can do is just highlight all these other layers and move it to the right, because those are going to come in later. This rectangle needs to come in first. So what we want to do to have this outer rectangle appear, we want it to kind of like expand from the U. To do that, we just right click here, pre-compose, just call it outer rectangle, hit OK. Go over to your pen tool with this layer still selected. Then we're going to click once here, kind of make a V like that, and then make a rectangle on the second half. So a V over here, and then a box kind of over here. And then we want to drop down the settings here, go to mask, drop that down, go to add. We actually want to change this to subtract. And then we want to drop down the mask one more time. You'll see mask path. Make sure your playhead is at the beginning of this layer here. Create a keyframe for mask path. Drag your playhead to the right just a little bit. Hit V on your keyboard, and then we can just take this and move it all the way to the left. Of course, we might have to change the timing. That's a little bit too fast. So I'm going to drag my playhead to the right, or I'm going to drag the keyframe to the right a little bit, highlight both of them, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Still a little too fast, so I'm going to drag that to the right. Okay. Right around like almost before 5 seconds is probably where we want to put that keyframe. From there, everything else needs to start appearing. What I did is just dragged all these layers to right when this rectangle is done animating in. That's when everything else appears. So right about here. So I'm going to label things a little bit better to make things a little bit organized. So I'm just going to go through and do that. For all these little circles, I'm just going to make these red. They'll let us know that these are all the little red circles, and then we have our lines here. So first things that we want to work with here, we can just unhighlight all those little red dots just to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to highlight this jagged line, and we want to make these two things appear. To quickly do that, instead of like animating them, what we can do here is just bring our playhead to the beginning, select center line, or actually we could select both of them. So select both of them, hit T on your keyboard. That'll bring up opacity. We want to create a keyframe for that. Drag it to the right, and then change this to 0. So they'll have both of those come in at the exact same time. And then keep things a little bit more organized. What we can do is pre-compose this and call this center circle / line, and then hit OK. We could also change the color of this if we want to. From here, now we need to have that jagged line begin to appear. So I'm going to drag my playhead to the beginning of the layer, zoom in a little bit here. We need to drop down the contents of the jagged line to where we see add right here. Once you see that, you're going to click on that, do trim pass. You see trim pass that appears here. We're going to drop that down as well. Make sure that's highlighted. And we just need to mess with the either start or the end. So it looks like the end, we want to make that 0. Keep our playhead at the beginning here. Hit a keyframe for end. Drag my playhead to the right a little bit. And then we're going to create a keyframe to where it hits like right here. Once it hits right there, I'm going to drag my playhead out a little bit more and then make this end 100%. So it should look like something like this. Okay, so when it looks like that, then we just want to highlight all these keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And there we have it, all those jagged lines appear. Now we need to make the red dots appear. To do that, I'm going to highlight all of these layers here, all the red dots. First off, we need to toggle them so we can see them again. I'm going to drag my playhead to the beginning, hit T on my keyboard, create a keyframe for opacity, drag that to the right, and then make this 0. So all those begin to appear. From here, what we need to do is actually make these circles wiggle a little bit, just to add some more dynamic to it, more movement. To do that, I'm just gonna take this first red shape layer here, and we're gonna make an expression. It's pretty simple. So hit P on your keyboard. That's gonna bring up position. I'm gonna hold down Option on Mac. It might be Option or Control on PC. Hold that down and then click the keyframe for position. You're going to click that, and that's going to bring up the expressions window here. Once this expressions window is here, we can just type in wiggle. Once wiggle's there, I'm going to do wiggle 1, 2. It might be hard for you to tell, but it's just wiggling ever so slightly. So to apply this same exact expression to all of these other layers, what we need to do is just click this position here on this layer, go to edit in the top left here, and you'll see copy expressions only. Once that's copied, you want to highlight the rest of these layers and then hit Command V. What it is, just copy that expression to all those other layers. One thing that we can do here as well is just pre-compose these layers. I'm going to change this to red as well so we know what that stands for. So we watch this back, the animation should be there. Alrighty, it's finally time to start adding that secret sauce or the finishing touches to it. And that is mainly the glow effect. As I was saying before, I'm going to use the plugin Deep Glow. I highly recommend using this. Honestly, they should sponsor me. I'll see if I could get you a discount code in the future, but use this effect. It's only $50 if you can afford it. It makes it a lot easier to get the desired glow effect that you're going for. After Effects regular glow effect is totally fine for you to use if you don't want to spend the money, but it just requires a little bit more manipulation and time to get a nice looking glow effect. So I'm going to use Deep Glow, and to do that, I'm going to go to Effects and Presets here, and you can see Deep Glow is already typed in here. Drag this onto the first circle here. I'm going to take down the exposure a little bit, maybe change the radius just a tad. Right around here. So you could copy these settings if you have Deep Glow. I'm going to hit Command C on my keyboard to copy this effect, and we're just going to paste it to all the other lines and whatever layers that are in here and see if we need to manipulate anything. So everything's looking pretty good with the glow effect. You might not need to manipulate it, but it looks pretty good. Actually, one thing I'm going to do on the center circle and line here, I'm going to actually get rid of the Deep Glow. It looks better without it. Gives it a little bit more depth when you do that, when only like the things in the background don't really have any glow to it. From here, it's just having the text pop up. So the first thing that we need to do or type in here is just go up to your type tool in the top left, click once on the screen, and then just type in how you think your journey will be, ... I'm going to center this. So I'm going to make the anchor point in the middle here, go to line, center that, try to find the right area, right spot for it. I think this could actually move down a tad bit. So right around there. All right, so we're going to change the color of this text. And by the way, if you don't have this font, once again, be available for you to download. If you're in the community, you can find it online if you don't want to join the community. So I'm going to just change this to green here. Something like that. Should look good. Maybe a little bit whiter, greenish white. That should be good. And then we want to find where we want this to disappear. So right when that line here disappears, we want that to disappear. So I'm going to go Command Shift D. It's going to make a cut, and then could delete it on the right. So then it disappears. What we can do is animate the opacity. So I'm gonna hit T on my keyboard, make sure my playhead's to the left a little bit, create a keyframe for that, drag my playhead to the right, make it at 0%, align that keyframe with the end of the layer. Then from there, I can hit Command D, drag this over to right where that cut is, and then we're gonna change the text. And then we change it to how it actually would be, and we can change this color to more of a red. And then we want this to animate in, or the opacity to animate in. So what we can do is just delete these ones on the end, hit the keyframe for opacity here, drag my playhead to the right a little bit, and then change this to 100%. Last thing to do is add a glow to it. So I'm gonna add that deep glow. Deep glow, mess with the settings a little bit, really turn that exposure down, maybe a little bit of the radius as well. That's pretty good. So I'm going to hit Command D to copy that effect and apply it to this text here. And here you have it, our final animation. Now, if you want to learn how to do this and do a lot more advanced stuff, as well as like the Ali Abdaal style, Vox style, my style, a whole bunch of styles, including this style, and learn like more advanced techniques behind it, then make sure to join our Leverage Editor program and community. Inside the program, you're going to unlock the secrets to doing all these top creator styles. As well, you're going to learn how to earn more as an editor. Right now, there's a problem where all these editors are accepting pay below their grade. And if you're an average editor, you're most likely doing that. So I'm going to show you how to earn a lot more. I'm going to show you all the techniques that I've learned to earn up to literally $30,000 a month. As well, with the community, there's a lot of challenges. There's coaches, mentors, one-on-one calls that we have, a whole bunch of other stuff, more updates and assets and all that, including this project file and all the other files that I've done before for my previous YouTube videos and the ones in the future. So you want to go from an average or okay editor to an advanced level editor where you get paid what you deserve and you work with the top level influencers, and join the Leverage Editor program plus community. The link is in the description for that. With that, I'll see you in the next video.